Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 62 of Technically Trek. I am your host, Dave Prime. Over there, back from sabbatical, is our great ditzy witch, Captain Katie. How you doing, my dear?
I'm doing a lot better. I'm doing a lot better. I still do have a little bit of a cough, so apologies in advance. But I'm still alive and kicking, so
Yay! So, other than being on the mend, have you gotten any of your writing done, any reading, or anything along those lines?
um I've actually only got about 1/4 of my first book left to write.
Well, that means it's three-quarters done. So, yay!
It is. I'm I've got content down for the first two books, but I'm having to do a lot of reformatting and reworking it a little bit. So it's taking time, but hopefully I'll have the first book completed by June. By the
Excellent.
end of June.
Um, sorry, got all of a sudden got an itch in the eye. See, I'm gonna do my best to not get too emotional because as damn it, there we go.
Would you like me to take over?
No, I'm good. Yeah, it's saying it yesterday marked 1 year, stopped drinking alcohol. And you know how much crap I've given over the years, over the various podcasts up to this, like even just a few weeks ago, just like the Star Trek Enterprise theme is not my favorite theme. I say I've not been a fan of them having lyrics going with the theme song, but it has been a long road getting from there to here. And
Yeah.
yeah, been getting a lot of congratulatory texts and phone calls from people from the rooms because they too know the struggle. It's not easy. I will never get over the struggle. Um, yeah, I'd say if it wasn't for Becca and Cassie being there for me, and I I can't put to words with them, with Mike One, with Mono, Mickey's son. They were all in my corner. Saying
Yeah.
probably wouldn't be sober today. I wouldn't be in this awesome apartment, though that's a whole other story in of itself. That,
Mm.
but if you know, you know, and you definitely know. The
Yeah.
DT family knows.
Yeah.
They know the crap that we had to go to. But I mean, Beck and Cassie, they're happy in their new place. They're still fine tuning the ins and the outs of all the wiring and the setting up for the studio to get Dangerous Thoughts TV up and running again for season two. I think I'm just going to keep on doing numbers. But speaking of
Yeah.
seasons, can you believe we're almost 1 year since doing this on YouTube?
I know it almost matches your journey with your sobriety. And I
Well,
just
there
want
you
to take
go.
a little bit more time to speak about that, Dave, because we've had some long conversations over this last year.
Yeah.
And one thing that has made me so proud
Hmm.
is from the moment you stop, you have not touched a single drop.
No, there's
And
been a
even though you have had so much going on, you've had your wobbles, but you have kept that strength and that sheer force of will to still say no. And not a lot of people have that strength.
uh,
And
there.
I don't think you was even aware of the strength that you had until you started this journey. And you really are an inspiration. And your strength and your willpower has helped me get through some really tough times this last year. And every time I've been struggling to deal with something, I've actually thought, but look what Dave's doing. And that has just helped keep me going. And I am not going to cry, people. You are not going to see this girl cry today, hopefully. Um,
Well, well, hopefully at one bit I'll get the cackle out for you. Yeah, there's one bit from the episode that we'll be talking about in a short while.
mm, but no, I'm so proud of you, Dave, because you have done this journey and you have done it so well. And I know that you will carry on this journey just as you have this last year. And that is a major achievement. Not many people would see it, but those who have suffered addiction in some way, shape, or form, or have had loved ones, people they're close to, who have been down that road, we all understand. And that 1 year chip that you are holding, yeah, that is a huge, huge, massive achievement. And I'm actually gutted that it's not like this big.
That'd be kind of hard to put in the pocket.
Yeah, but you could get little tiny ones like that to put in your pocket and like on keychains and things. But then you could just hang like a massive one on the wall.
Hmm. Well, they
But
do make
no,
those for the AA rooms and stuff, but
oh, how
see,
rude.
I won't say that there was a sub a year ago today, say because the way I'm thinking the way this chip is, this is an Alcoholics Anonymous chip. This is me. I've been sober from alcohol for a year. There have been other mind altering substances I was taking to as a fill in for alcohol. I was California sober for a few months. So I mean, even though I wasn't drinking the booze, I was hitting the marijuana for a little bit until the end of August, and then just out of the blue one day, I gave my vape pipe and all my cartridges to Becca, saying, "Here, have them. I'm done."
And that
And
popped in just for you.
thank you, man. But a year ago tonight, I was given a special candy bar.
I remember
E-
that. I remember that night.
and Manu himself said that was the catalyst to my sobriety. It was taking that eating that candy bar was a way of getting my brain reset to stay
Yeah.
away to stay away from the alcohol. And while I acknowledge there was that component into it, the fact that Cassie and Becca sat me down after that drunken blackout night that I had. They just flat out said, "Dude, you need to stop. This is what you
Yeah,
did," which just completely horrified me. Saying,
I
full
know.
disclosure, I mean, I was banging on their kids' door, yelling at them to be quiet. I was trying to sleep, even though I was wide awake, even though I wasn't conscious of what I was doing. I kept on passing out on the floor in the hallway between my bedroom door and the hallway. And at one point, I was walking around the house in my birthday suit. Yeah,
Yes, I
that
do
was
remember. I remember all of that. I remember all of that.
But 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 one accomplishment, I did go to the bathroom. I used the toilet. I did not miss. So yay for small accomplishments, but yeah, they just told me dump the booze or you need to move out.
Yeah,
So I reluctantly at the time dumped the alcohol down the kitchen sink. I'd say it's somewhere around the ballpark of $150 worth of alcohol. But they later found a bottle in my closet when they were looking for something in my room. But when they brought it to my attention, I was absolutely horrified. One, that I actually missed the bottle
no, it was when
that
he
I
was
thought I.
It was when he was moving.
No, this was before. This was like a couple months before we decided to move
I
out.
thought it was when you was moving. I thought that when they you was moving out, what something was found at the back of your closet that you'd completely forgotten about.
Yeah. Well, I'm just saying. Yeah. Say I wasn't hiding it. Saying if it was there, I would have drank it.
Yeah.
So because I think that's it. Are you being honest with us? It's like, yeah, totally. It's like, we found alcohol in your room. I'm like, what? But
Do you know what? It does happen.
it does.
It really
But
does. It does happen, and I know that you would have been honest if you had have done.
but yeah, like I said, when they told me I had those two choices, I mean, at the time I dumped it and I had a plan to move. I didn't have the money at the time, so I had no choice. I had to dump it so I could stay. And I was going to raise enough money to get my own place and start drinking again. That was the original plan.
Yeah.
But then I about a week into my sobriety, I went to a say a LBITQA, LGBTQIA plus AA meeting, and they were very warm. They were very welcoming. I just turned into a puddle. I was bawling, sharing that story about what I did that week before, and I'm just like, I think I don't know what to do. And I was honestly, I was faking it for the first month or so, and say still that plan I was going to move out, start drinking again. But then 2.5 months into my sobriety, I went to my high school reunion, and I
Yeah.
I I was good. I stayed sober. I volunteered to be a designated driver to whomever needed a driver. So there was like three or four of us that, well, three, four in addition to me, went out bar hopping. Saw one of our old classmates at a bar that he worked at. Then we went to another bar, and one of the girls was on the dance floor just waving her martini glass, sloshing it all over the place, just hooping, hollering, having a good time. And my first thought was, "Oh my God, was that me just a few months ago?" And then when I had to answer to myself, yes, that's when it first clicked that yes, I was an alcoholic. I started working the steps with a new purpose, and working with an awesome sponsor who, whenever I was feeling down, ready to relapse, ready to say fuck it and start the clock over again, I'm calling him and saying, dude, I feel like having a drink, talk me out of it. And he talked me out of it. Which, by the way, just like, this is the technically portion of technically track today.
Yeah.
So, but this is
This is why
this
we
is a bit.
started 15 minutes early, and
Exactly.
we needed it because this is something very important to you, and your
I need.
journey could help so many people have the courage to start this journey as well.
I think, but yeah, with as I kept on going to the rooms, I am now the chair of a meeting every Saturday afternoon. It's a small group, but it's about 4 or 5 people on average. Sometimes it has more, but as long as it's a group. We're having a meeting. Bam, it's good. Living here in this apartment, I have to go to at least 5 meetings a week. I'm going to 6. So with that meeting, so yeah, I'm going to a meeting after this. That's why we have a hard stop here in 88 minutes. But but yeah,
But
going to
you
the
really are an
rooms
inspiration. I mean, honestly, if I'd have known about this plan of yours to get your own place and start drinking again, or if that's what you'd have done, I I I would have done absolutely anything to get my travel visa and to get across the pond just to slap you.
with a wet trout.
Yes, I would slap you with a wet fish right across your face.
The same, but yeah, going to the rooms. I've been in a gay kickball league for the past 2 months, and most of the team is sober. Just my team, but pretty much all the other teams they're drinkers as well. But I've done my best to pass the message around whenever I'm able to with customers,
Yeah,
and yeah, and saying I'm going to be get my I'm going to create a display. Right now, they're all kind of on the bottom of my cork board
yeah,
there, and saying I'll be getting another chip tonight, so this chip will probably be going up there with the rest. This might be the one I keep in my pocket, but
yeah.
I have plans for the rest of the chips. One of which is going to my parents.
Yes.
I had a good conversation with my mother yesterday to celebrate getting this one, and I flat out told her, this is not your fault. This is all on me. And when I actually got this chip last night at the meeting, I got a text from mom's because my dad wasn't there. My brother was resting from his surgery, so he was out. Um, but I had a good conversation with my mother about it, and actually read her out of the daily reflections what I'm going to share at my meeting tomorrow night. If we have time, I'll share that. But right now we got quite a few people backstage. So we got Travis and Phil and Tyson. Hello,
Oh,
gentlemen.
Hola. I don't even know if
Hello.
this is
no.
working.
Yeah, it's working. Travis is muted, but everyone else is good.
Hello, hello.
Hello to you all. And I just want to say
Hello.
before we get started, thank you so much, Travis, for standing in for me the last 2 weeks. You are an absolute
Oh,
diamond.
And
it,
and he
it,
was
it was it was my pleasure.
and he was about ready to step in for you tonight because all your technical hiccups that you're dealing with
Oh,
TV working.
honestly, you should see the state of my room. I've got an Ethernet cable running right across it. I had to run around my apartment like a headless chicken to find the Ethernet cable so that I could run it through. God love technology.
Oh yes, but do got to give a quick shout out to Dubby, my partner for the podcast. They do these great energy drinks, and you can get this awesome little. This is one of many tumblers that they have. I like this one because he's cute. I want a hoodie like this. I think I
Yeah,
could
I mean,
rock
I
I
the
want
hoodie.
that hoodie.
you
I
you
really do.
said it
I
before I
really want that
could.
hoodie.
I put in
Say that
chat cute anime. Use a little hottie on your bottle.
yes, but you can get bottles like this as well as a variety of different flavor powders. You get 10% off if you use the code TechTrek, TEKTREK. And it's
Nice.
yeah, it's a pretty good deal. They got a lot of awesome flavors. I found out that Grandpa's denture water is being phased out, so I might have to get a tub of that before it goes away.
Yeah, or not. That's an option too.
Well, you're
And how
hitting
does
big
that
time with
taste?
brand deals now, eh?
Where'd you go, Katie?
Sorry,
Oops.
I'm just having malfunction with my nose. It's bleeding.
Oh no.
But I'm still here.
Oh,
I'm still here. I'm alive. You just can't see me, but you know, cooey.
But yeah, it's okay that you're a little tardy there, Tyson. Because I mean, we were just having little hiccups. Saying that the extra 15 minutes for today's show, it just was essentially give
yeah.
dedicated time talking about my sober journey a little bit because this chip means a lot, and
Absolutely.
I'll be going back to
doing.
watch it later. I've got, oh my goodness, this Thursday for the very first time in my life, 51 and a half years old. I guess we stopped using halves after 12, but 51 and a half years
I'm a
old.
Christmas baby. I use halves.
I'm December 19th, so really close. But for all my life, I have never had a U.S. passport, never. So I'm going to get my very first passport this Thursday.
Really?
Go in, apply for it, and get my passport. I figure with the current president, I better have an escape plan and just make sure I'm able to leave the country if I have to.
I have friends who just bought property in Ecuador. They're inviting anyone possible to come down there. It's very gay friendly.
Well, can't do it without a
And you're more than
passport.
welcome to
So
come and visit me, Tyson.
I can't believe we live in a time where we actually talking about, evacuating our own homeland because of the level of craziness from our leader.
I've
That's not
watched,
exactly what I'd call
and I
him.
know this is not a political show, and I'm going to apologize, but I'm only going to take a 60 seconds or less. But I've watched some of the most loving words like diversity, which to me is what America's all about, right? We're a melting pot. Equity, making sure that there's equality and equity, and that people have what they need, and inclusion, making sure people feel included. The initials are DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusion. And for an
Mm,
administration to take something so pure and to twist it into something that is a political, DEI is horrible and hey, we hate DEI, and we're against all these companies that I lost my job as the diversity officer in the Coast Guard. If you can do that, and if you can like deport people without habeas corpus, they're talking about suspending habeas corpus to deporting people. Um, I mean, what if I had a tattoo that looks suspicious? I might be a citizen, but would I have time to prove it in court, or would I be deported
yep.
before I had an opportunity? You know what? It's the U.S. has never been scary to me before. It's always been home, like the best place on earth, and it's starting to feel scary for the first time ever,
Yes.
and
Mm.
Yes.
that's an awful
Yeah.
feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
Canada's looking really good. By the way, Phil, I might become a neighbor. So Canada's looking really nice. You
We'll get
are
a bed made.
okay. Well, thank you.
Well, he's probably got the space too now with his new digs.
Well, back in the day, when Trump
Right.
first became president, Trudeau said, "Hey, if you're American, you want to come up here, we'll take you. Come on up." I don't know about the new prime minister. He seems very nice. He seems very anti-Trump. So
Mm. Yeah.
I'm sure if you're
Fine.
fleeing the tyranny of the Trump administration, he would welcome you with open arms.
As long as you have a passport, which you said you were getting, as long as you have a passport, I believe you can make your way. You can make your way up if it ever comes to that. Then yeah, as long as you've got that, then yeah, you can usually come up here.
How
Too
long
much
before
issue.
how long before he starts to come after gays, right? I
Ooh.
mean, I don't know.
Well, I mean, you heard what he did with the trans people in the military.
Yeah.
I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
that's already happened. They was told either they quit or they're going to be forcibly quit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
It is awful. This is
yeah.
just a horrible time, and we'll just have to see what happens in 2028.
Yep. Just got 3 more
Hopefully not
years.
before. Yes. And if he finds a way to stay in office again, Phil, make that bed.
It,
I'll be
it,
coming
it
up.
will be a civil war. It will be a civil war. Yeah, that will be a civil war. The second American Civil War. But not like to get too too into the discussion at hand and stuff and everything else. I'm not jumping ahead of anything else, but like we were just talking in a sense. There was something that you said, Tyson, that just reminded me of in this particular episode that we're going to discuss. Where Paul and Archer are going back and forth on the moral and ethical of his decision to attack a you know
Ilarian.
different species and stuff and everything, just to get something that they have that they don't, that get something that they have
That
that
they
they
need.
need. And she quoted she quoted Archer back his own words and stuff and everything else. And I like that little thing, where she said, about you can't save humanity if you can't be human yourself and stuff, and if you can't remain human yourself and everything and stuff. And it just goes to that right there touched me when I heard that. I'm sitting here thinking, that kind of fits in a little bit in this political climate in our country and stuff and everything and stuff, in a sense, because it was
Yeah.
just, it was just, I know it fit for that narrative and stuff and everything else, but I looked at it as a broader perspective. I'm like, man,
Yeah. Yes. Star Trek
that still
hits it
rings
again.
it rings a bell in this political climate in our country and stuff and everything else. It's like, man, oh man, people have lost their humanity in this country.
And
There
we're
are
talking about
individuals that,
23 years ago, right? This was filmed
24.
24 years ago.
yeah,
So
Yeah.
I mean
April
that
2004 is when this aired.
to think of when when it aired, how, to Travis's point, how it's poignant today. If you lose your humanity, I mean, it's what are you trying to save? We're trying to save humanity and our belief system, our ethics, our morals. But if you can't be ethical and moral while trying to save your ethics and morals, then
yeah,
what are you doing?
yeah,
It's
yeah.
this used to be a country of immigrants. It was, we the people, by the people, for the people.
Yep,
Um,
in the
we weren't,
Constitution.
yeah, and now I'm seeing things happen. Fascism, um, and it's ugly.
That's a term that I never thought in my lifetime, because a lot of, you know, if we go back further enough, a lot of our grandparents and great great grandparents, and you could say, like I had a great grandfather on on my mother's side. He fought the Nazis, and stuff. And he didn't really talk about because they asked him when he came back. He didn't discuss, and a lot of them didn't discuss, the horrors that they seen in Europe and stuff and everything at that time. And you look back, our great grandparents and grandparents, stuff like that, who fought, in a sense, those kind of idealisms and stuff and everything else. It crept back after almost 80 years into our society with a vengeance. And I never thought, we read about it in books. We was taught about it in books and stuff. Never have I ever thought I would see fascism being okay in this country
What
after
what
the
what
Second
did
World War.
Hitler do? He attacked the media as the enemy of the people.
Yep.
He scapegoated a minority group, the Jews. In our case,
Yep.
it's the Latinos, right? What is he's closed off all avenues of asylum except for white South Africans, which seems odd. Um, he wants to end birthright citizenship. Any human being born in the United States is an American by the Constitution. And most countries, where Katie is, where Philip is, in Canada and in the UK, if you're born there, you are a Canadian or you are a United Kingdom citizen. If you're born within the
Mhm.
UK, that's just the way it is. That's the way something like 80% of countries. If you're born, there's 20% where there are some countries that don't have that, but most first world countries, I mean, that's the way it is.
Your parent,
He wants to get
if
rid
your
of that.
parent, well, if your parent is an American citizen, and you say like Phil has, American, you know, uh, person who his wife is or husband is and stuff like that, and they have a child and stuff and everything else under the Constitution, it made it plain and simple. That child is by definition of the Constitution a citizen of the United
Right.
States.
If you're
They may
born to
have they may
American
have
parents
dual they
abroad,
may
yes,
have dual
right,
citizenships.
right.
Yeah.
And that
But
It's not a
that's
matter
one
of
thing.
fact.
But if you're being arrested and thrown out of the country without habeas corpus, how can you even prove you're an American citizen before you're gone?
Oh man, I can tell you.
I can't.
th-
Yeah, sorry. That's where I'm hung up.
yeah, so
Yep.
this sounds like a good topic to start at the DT when it finally gets back on the air again.
Yeah, I'll shut up about it. Back to Enterprise.
Yes.
Good.
Say another prolific recurring actor from other series showed up as say Casey Biggs, Damar, best
Yep.
known as. He was one of the Illyrians, which if people don't realize, saying number one, Una in Star Trek Strange New Worlds is Illyrian, which just like
Okay.
doesn't look anywhere close to the same. It's just a total
Yeah.
Trill situation from the host from Next Generation to say they tried one way. It's like, it's not gonna work. Let's try it a different
Okay.
way. Because can you imagine Rebecca Romaine with those ridges and everything like that? So it's like, no. So
Boy, that
I
sounds too close to Elorian, which is what Guinan was. So there's
yes,
Yes.
Illyrian and
Mm.
Elorian, and I got to keep those two separate.
Yeah,
but
this is
yeah,
why I always just say I just make up names for them because I can never remember all these names. I am a terrible Trekkie. I really am. So I just try not to know the names because I always get confused.
but yeah, I think this
God.
might be the first episode that we've talked about that's actually gotten plucked out of a continuing storyline
Mm,
because the events of the previous episode is saying that all the Xindi, well, specifically the reptilians of the Xindi, was
and they're
just
insectoids.
pummeling and the insectoids. Yeah, they're just pummeling the Enterprise to a pulp. The
Mm.
people are dying on the ship. Others are being thrown out to the vacuum of space. Those are the three that souls that were unaccounted for, and we actually saw those. Like, okay, that's probably the three.
Yep.
Mm.
Yep. Unaccounted for.
But then all of a sudden they just up and just that's when with the way the reptilians were torturing Archer, which there was not much fanfare really. Not only when they found out it was Archer that was in that escape pod, but when Phlox brought Porthos back to him, Porthos was like, boop, ba-doop, like no business. And saying any other dog that hasn't seen his master for several days, that dog's going to be hopping up in his lap and wagging his tail and licking his
Yeah.
face. It's like, Porthos, bad boy. Mm.
Oh no, you can never say bad boy to Porthos. How dare you, sir?
Mm.
Porthos can do no wrong. He can do no wrong.
Except,
Same as Spock,
except he
they can
peed on
never
a
do
tree
wrong.
that he shouldn't have.
When you gotta go, you gotta go.
Yeah, when he.
Simple.
Oh, no, it's saying. Side note, we have to do, and I'm going to fully embarrass myself here. And say we got to do at least one UA a week where I live, just to show that yeah I'm still clean, I'm still sober, which I've had no problem with that. But when I did it yesterday, my stream was so strong, the cup fell out of my hand into the toilet.
Oh dear.
Oh,
Wow,
Oh
taking
man.
power peas, huh?
Yeah, I was just like, did I just do that? I was like, holy crap! I, the Wii was strong in me.
Wow.
But yeah, so, but yeah, rewatching this episode, I picked I picked this episode because it dealt with addiction, specifically
Mm.
to pull her. I mean, she was wanting that Trillium-D bad because she's
Yes, she
risking her
did.
life. She's going into the cargo bay in an environmental suit, which, by the way, the visor cracked one moment, and then the next shot, visor's fine.
Yeah,
So I don't.
I saw that.
Oh, and even
But yeah, she falls. She she hurt herself in the process. But I mean, but when there's a couple things that I saw wrong with that scene when she's tearing through the container. She takes the first shelf of it off and gets out of the second shelf, and not only grabs the cylinder and dumps the rocks out of the cylinder just to take it to the lab to get processed to be able to take it intravenously. Why did she not just keep the rocks in the cylinder? Was she
Thought the
that?
same
Was
thing.
she? Was she that just out of her mind with needing it that bad that she wasn't thinking straight?
Yes.
She
The
was
answer is yes.
really out there.
Yeah.
It
Yeah,
you know, when she finally went to Flock,
pretty.
she actually oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say that to Paul was very like out of it, and she was all over the place, bless her. And as much as she was trying to keep it together, you could physically you could see her crumbling, and the fact that she put her life at risk to get that
Yeah,
was
major props to Jolene Blaylock. Well, just Jolene now is what she goes by. It
yeah.
did a great job of just showing like someone going through withdrawal and addiction. Which thank the prophets, I did not go through that when I quit cold turkey on the alcohol. I have seen people, some people, one in particular that I've met in the rooms that was going through severe withdrawals.
And well, there's I think a difference between now. I think most people know that I drink light beer. Um, that's not an excuse. It just it is what it is. But I know people that drink hard alcohol,
Which
and they drink a lot of hard alcohol. And when
Mhm.
you drink a lot of hard alcohol, it it really gets like last night. I got home late. I was tired. I didn't have a beer. I take it or leave it. I didn't need it. But there was a time in my life, 25 years ago, where I would drink vodka out of a bottle. And when I quit the hard alcohol, there were withdrawals. Now the beer, no withdrawal. I can go without, a week, no big deal. But the hard alcohol, there's something I don't know what it is, but there's something about wine, for me anyway. Wine sneaks up on you. Wine is like I could drink 4, 5, 6 beers, and I could feel when I'm starting to get drunk, and I know to stop. But with wine, like you don't feel drunk. You could keep drinking, you don't feel drunk, and then by the time you do, doesn't matter if you stop, you're gone. And hard alcohol does the same thing.
especially if it's
And
sweet. If you have a
yeah,
sweet drink, you have no idea how much it's actually hitting you.
right, exactly.
Yeah.
And hard alcohol very similar. You can I'm not drunk, and you're doing this right. You're like, I'm not drunk. What are you talking about? I'm fine. And it
Actually, I
hard
just like to
alcohol.
weigh in there.
Yeah,
On
go ahead.
Lights Out, and people didn't believe it until they saw it. But, like, if I go on a night out or anything like that, I can have like 10 shots of vodka, and I'll be like just merrily on my way. I'll be happily tipsy, like borderline drunk. But if I was to have maybe like 2 or 3 pints, I'd be gone. And I don't know why, because obviously, like Coors Light or whatever, or Stella, that's only lager,
Right.
and then there's vodka, and it's just like the like spirits and things like that, I'm fine with. But you give me a couple of pints, and I am so drunk.
I think it's similar to smoking. If you're somebody who, like, I don't smoke, I go, weeks at a time. But if I'm with a friend who smokes, I'll have a cigarette or two with them, and then won't need to smoke again. There are people like that. I'm the first fucking gnat. I have no idea where it comes from. I live in Ramona. I have every idea where it comes from. I live in the fucking sticks, so I got gnats aplenty. Anyway, um, I'm addicted to cigarettes. That's It's an addiction. And if I go, so long without having a cigarette, I start having fits. And I can imagine that for an alcoholic
Mm.
who's addicted, that addiction is the same, right? Whether it's heroin, whether it's nicotine, whether it's alcohol, whether it's opioids, whether it's, whatever that is, you're without it for a long time and your body is used to it. It's not just a psychological, but there's an actual physiological dependency that happens, and your body physiologically react. It's not just telling yourself, oh, you don't need it. You physically need it, and if you don't get it, you start going through horrible withdrawals. And people like Dave, and I'm very glad you didn't have that horrible withdrawal. But I'm also glad that you're in a situation to help people that do have those withdrawals, and that you learn skills that help to cope. And I know with opioids
Yeah.
and others, there's like methadone. For cigarettes, there's nicotine patches. But for alcohol, there's
Mm.
no pacifier, right? There's no alcohol patch that you can put on, or no pill you can take that'll help alleviate. And so with alcohol,
The
um,
only
it
the the only option is to give more alcohol just to kind of just cut the.
right, right. But it takes
There
because
we go.
there's no supplement. I'm whatever a supplement is, because there's no supplement. The attention to a person, to be there with them, to hold their hand, to stay with them, to encourage them, to talk with them, to maybe even spend the night with them, and just say, I'm going to stay here with you tonight. Just that human connection is all they have, and it is so important. And I can't tell you, Dave, you know what? It's not just pride that you were able to overcome this. That's part one. Part two is that you're helping other people do the same. I mean, it would be great if you just did it for you. That would be fine.
Yeah.
But that you're going that extra mile and doing it for others. And those people may, because of you, help other people. And because of you, they may help other people who help other people who help other people. There may be thousands of people who get cured because one person, Dave Hildebrand, cared enough. That to me is special. And I love you
No,
for it.
thank you, man. Well, yeah,
You know something?
once,
Oh, go ahead, Dave.
yeah, once I have completed the all 12
Mm.
steps, even though I need to focus on step 4. That's the one that I'm working on focusing on right now, just my resentment list, seeing where I did wrong. Saying there's a lot of things that happened in my life where I thought that they were the ones that were fucking me over, screwing me over, when I'm finding out the fact that when I take a step back of the situation and look at both sides, I was a bit of a dick. I mean, there are some situations where I'd still be be in the right, but overall, as I say, writing down writing down things that go. I wish I had my notepad from my.
But this is the thing, when people have got an addiction, it changes them. It affects their moods. I mean, we see it in this episode with Paul.
Hmm.
I mean, obviously, it's slightly different because, Vulcan emotions, ugh. But it the way that scene played out was pretty accurate. And a lot of people don't realize that, whether it be alcohol, pills, or something like that, it does affect your mental health.
It does a lot.
That's basically what we're seeing with Paul in this episode as well. And like I said, obviously different, alien, but the principle is the same. And it. A lot of people don't realize that it does affect a person's mental health.
Yeah.
It's not that it changes that person as such, but the way that it affects a person's mental health. There's a constant battle of the mind. It's like you've got two people in your mind. You've got this one person here that's like, gotta get it. And there's this other person like, no. And they're in a constant battle. And it is heartbreaking to see.
But
Maybe y'all
what was
remember the episode. Oh,
so I didn't mean to step on your Travis, but yeah, Katie, you're saying about it being a heartbreaking situation. What Phlox was doing for T'Pol is heartwarming.
Yeah.
He understands what she's going through. He's there to help her. At the end of the episode, they're having tea together in her quarters, just like he's being that doctor-patient confidentiality. He's being that helpful, that closed-mouth friend, as the rooms of AA talk about when someone's feeling down. I got dozens of phone numbers of people from the rooms that I can call, depending on the situation. 99% of the time, it's my sponsor that I'm calling, but there are a few others that I have regular contact with, just saying that I'm feeling down, I'm feeling like shit, I need help, and I'm there for them as well. And saying I'm becoming less selfish and more selfless in the 12 months that I've been in the program. And saying it, and I mean, there's some people I'm sitting with them for an hour or more, just letting them talk, letting them get it out of their system. I have no way of knowing how to respond to what they're doing except just being there to listen like an Elorian. Is
Yeah.
remember in the first season of Enterprise, it was the episode, I believe it was episode 17 called Fusion.
Mhm.
So do you remember the ship full of Vulcans that were basically going against the standing teachings of what the current Vulcan society teaches about suppressing their emotions? They were experiment with emotions and stuff. They were experimenting with their emotions and stuff. One of the Vulcans that T'Pol got in, she actually had an altercation in. He told her, try to meditate. Well, try not to meditate for one night and see what it does to you when you just go straight to bed and stuff. Because Vulcans, for them to keep their mental stability intact, they meditate for now 1 hour before bedtime. Now, with that said, at the end, when Archer had, the confrontation with that particular Vulcan that physically and mentally assaulted T'Pol,
Mhm.
him and T'Pol had a little thing where he said, I understand now why you guys meditate, because for them, their mental stability is utmost. And if they were to, even though we see Vulcans that say they react on things,
Mm-hmm.
when they react to, when they act on their emotions, it can be real trippy for them because they have been taught from the very early age. And we've seen Tuvok go through this because he had to, learn to suppress his emotions and stuff, and then going through Pumfar and everything else and stuff about their discipline, their mental discipline. Unlike us versus Vulcans and stuff and everything else, we we intend to it get the best of us. Our emotions do get the best of us, but sometimes we can, control our emotion. Not every humans can control their emotions, but it's a self-control type thing and stuff. When T'Pol lost her, she experimented with a type of element that she never came across. And when she was on the Saleya, as she said, she explained to Doc when she was on the Saleya, she accessed, you know, emotions that she never thought about, that she's never even considering stuff and everything else. And it seemed like it probably was kind of euphoric to her. And she wanted to re-experience that, what was happening to her, even though it was, it would destroy her, neurological pathway and stuff and everything. And she told Flox she experimented in a very small dosage, which probably that made sense and stuff, because if she was to, you know, we would have seen it sooner. If she would have upped the dosage and stuff like that, she would have probably went berserk and everything, and her emotions would have just pulled out, and we would have seen like Ravage, to Paul Vulcan on the ship and stuff and everything. But he said that he could treat the some of the effect of the Trellium-D, but she is going to have to learn to live with having to experience the emotions that she has you know bought upon herself, because you could tell she was having a hard time adjusting to those, because you can see that in that, like, what's that that dream hallucination, that dream where her and Trip was in the shower and they was getting
Yeah,
all hot and
that's
bothered, and
then she
and
got all bothered.
Mhm.
oh boy, I was like, man, this is a very steamy scene and stuff like that. Somebody it ain't gonna look like, I don't know, but you know it goes back to to Paul. She experimented on herself, which was interesting in the beginning and stuff and everything. But not jumping ahead, but like
Or
leapfrogging into the next season, where her mother, about the whole embassy bombing and the Earth embassy bombing, and then these radical Vulcans and stuff and everything else, she ended up mind melding with T'Pau. Was it T'Pau, Dave?
yeah,
She ended up mind melding with T'Pau because apparently she had a uh neurological imbalance given from that. I'm just wondering, did T'Pau ever get like her whole neurological balance back, even from
I
being with the Trellium-D
yeah, I think
with
when
T'Pau?
I think when she went to the Vulcan planet with was it the she, I don't I want to say Shiite, but that's Muslim. No, the Vulcan order, the sect. Um
I can't
and
remember the name.
they did a mind meld on her that kind of fixed her. That's
yeah,
That
when
was
Jonathan
that
yeah,
was
Archer.
T'Pau.
yeah. T'Pau,
Mm.
who was still alive and kicking in the 23rd century when she refused Spock's Katra. So
Hmm.
Yeah, oh boy,
Oh
I
yeah.
remember that. But I was just
or
saying,
was that
in this,
or was that just the
she was the same. It was the same character, different actor, but the same
uh,
character, because we know
okay,
Vulcans can live up to 200 and stuff and everything.
at
But I
least?
was just saying that to Paul experience, those type of emotions that you could see in the last few episodes of that season 3. You could see she was still dealing with the side effects of of the Trellium-D, and it became, it was like her addiction wasn't so much of a, because she's a Vulcan, like, for like y'all stated, like alcoholism or pills or whatever, stuff like that. It was almost a mind thing. It was her, you know, her mind and stuff, about not able to get control of her, of her mental stability to function. That's just
And
I
how
and
think. she ever recovered properly from it, though. I don't think she ever regained full, like, Vulcan emotional stability, because, and now don't get me wrong, I haven't watched Enterprise for a while. Obviously, aside from this episode today, and one before, but I haven't actually watched Enterprise for a while. But from what I remember, the stability that she did get was just to stabilize their emotions so they didn't become volatile, not true suppression. Because I'm sure I remember some points in season 4, she did display emotion, just not as intensely. It was more controlled. It was actually more human in a sense, and it was very controlled. But she did display emotion. I'm sure of it now. If anybody's watching and I am wrong, my apologies. I like I said, I haven't seen it for a while, but I'm sure that she did. And I think it was one of them. It just gave her emotional stability and helped to some degree control them and get them on a level, but not like fully like Vulcan suppression, so to speak.
Well, and
The
that
episode
just
The Awakening or the Kishara?
Kishara, that's the word you were looking for earlier.
The Kishara, yeah, the episode Kishara.
But no,
I don't know episode names, darling.
say Travis and I, or what I can't get, Travis can get. Sometimes I can get what he can't get. So it's just we're
I know the odd episode
intimidating.
name, but it's very rare that I can pluck out an episode name and it be the right one.
And we're just like, yeah, Katie. No, but a lot of what you're both talking about is a lot of what I've been going through while
Yeah.
going to the programs, to eating that candy bar, where it didn't cure me of my alcoholism, because I just still have those cravings every now and then, but I do have the will and the strength to kind of take a step back and say, I'm able to say, and usually you put a shot in front of me, it's going down the hatch. And say, but now I can say no. And say, when I went
The
to my high
question,
school reunion, and say
Yeah.
asked me for a drink, I asked for a soda, and he said, I thought you wanted alcohol. So I just pulled out my chip I had at the time, and I told, not anymore.
the
Is that a
question
metal
is,
chip?
when it comes to addiction, he says that metal, Dave.
What's that? It's heavy metal. It's an actual metal chip now. No more plastic.
No more plastic. Okay, sorry, that was my only question. Go ahead.
No, I was gonna ask, we talk about like, drug addiction stuff and addiction and stuff and everything else, but like, aside from the addictions of alcoholism and drugs and stuff and everything else, it's like addiction in general, as we, as human beings, what are we addicted to that, it's not classified as not I can't say harmful, but like classified in the sense of what do we do every day in a sense that is not
Coffee.
illegal, but yet it can be
Coffee.
to your health. That's a good one, Phil.
And
That's a
like
good one. That's a good.
to collecting books
Everything,
and reading.
everything in moderation. I mean, there are some. I mean, most. I don't want to say every. I don't think there's any good aspect to cigarettes, but uh, there's even Kaiser Permanente, the healthcare that I work for, says that a glass of red wine every night can be good for you. The tannins can have good of same thing with coffee. Coffee can actually have some good effects. But again, moderation is
Yeah.
the key. That's you know uh, even marijuana has medicinal purposes. Katie, sorry.
I was actually just going to bring that up. Now, like you said, Tyson, everything in moderation. But do you know how medical professionals, well, especially across here anyway, because, weed isn't legalized over here. But I admit, I used to smoke weed. I did. And I'm gutted I can't get my hands on any because I know it's a really good painkiller. But I used to actually smoke it to help my migraine. And
Yeah.
I went to see my neurologist to see if I was eligible for the Botox injections for migraines. And he actually said, because I was very honest, as I always am, and I says, "Oh yeah, I've been smoking weed," and he went, "Just out of curiosity, how much of it have you been smoking?" And I'm like, I don't know, but not all that much. And he says, "And does it help?" And I'm like, "Yes, it does."
Mm-hmm.
And it's a good painkiller as well. And he said, "Do you know what?" He said, "You carry on doing it." And this is a neurologist. And he said, he says, even if you're smoking a little bit every day, as long as you are being sensible with it and you are aware of your limits, he said a tiny little bit is going to do you more good than harm.
Well, you don't even have to smoke it. They have like chews, little fruit chews that are
Mhm.
THC infused. Because
Yeah.
anytime you inhale smoke debris into your lungs, doesn't matter if it's a cigar, if it's cigarette, if it's marijuana,
These
the
vape or these
particulates
little
that get in your
vapes.
lungs, right? The particulates that get in your lungs is what does the damage. But the THC in the marijuana, which is what makes you high, if you will, you can get those in little gummies, and you can take those. You don't risk any damage to your lung, but you get the beneficial effect. Also, there's a lot of case study that shows that CBD, which also exists in marijuana, separate from the THC, has a lot of the same medicinal effects without getting you high. So, I mean, there's pros and cons to both, but you can get both in edible form where you don't have to pollute your lungs.
Not here.
Well, in the U.S. It's available in the U.S. in edible form.
No,
Now,
I just want
CBD,
to.
I believe, is available there because CBD is not THC. Those are separate.
You can buy it online from certain places that will deliver, but the thing is, it's not the proper stuff. It's not proper CBD because the UK won't allow it imported unless it's medical grade because certain people can get medical prescription for marijuana, but that's only those that are basically on end of life care for certain types of cancer, extreme epilepsy. It is available for my condition, fibromyalgia, but I would have to go private and pay an arm and a leg. And it'd be cheaper getting it off the street, in all honesty. It really would. But I mean, years and years ago, my mother had an operation and she actually smoked it as a painkiller afterwards. Don't get me wrong, she could have got us arrested because she had the plant on the living room windowsill to get some sun. Yeah,
I
so
swear it's a FICA. Kidding.
yeah, that was actually really funny. But no, like this, you see, this thing what Tyson brought up with like a glass of red wine is supposed to be good for your heart, and it's like, hold on a minute. 1 minute they're saying it's good for you, like one small glass a day. The next they're saying it's not. They do it with everything. 1 minute something is really good. Apparently, pregnant women can no longer eat bananas for morning sickness.
Not able to shove a phallic thing in your mouth.
There's nothing in the world that is 100% safe. Nothing.
No.
And there's nothing in the world that is 100% dangerous. Everybody is like, some people can eat peanuts all day long. Another person eats one peanut and they're, in the hospital.
Yeah.
All of our physiology is different, and what's good for us is different. And there's a lot of generalities out there. For a long time, they were saying eggs were very bad for you because of all the cholesterol. Then all of a sudden, eggs are
Yeah.
healthy and good. Then they were bad for you again. It's like, so I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
You remember the food pyramid back here in the States back in the 70s, especially when McDonald's came about.
Oh
I
yeah.
remember hearing the history. Red meat was at one point they were like, they had to adapt to change, and chicken became this thing in the 70s where it was a hot commodity versus the red meat, because people was, the US government basically said, Americans are eating way too much red meat, and it's like, they got to do something. And chicken sandwiches started coming around in the mid to late 70s and stuff, and it's one of those things where, like, wow, you think something, in a sense, is, people would say it's good for you, but yet, you learn your lesson. It says, like you just said, Tyson, it just seems like everybody's biochemistry is different. Just
Right.
like our fingerprints. Our fingerprints is different from everybody else, just like your biochemistry is different. Like you just pointed out, somebody can eat a whole, handful of nuts in their mouth, no pun intended. They
How is
and then somebody else
It's not fact.
can
You had
somebody
to
else
say it
can
that
just
way.
Of course he did. You wouldn't be Thomas if he didn't.
You know what you call nuts on your chin? Dick in your mouth. There, there's,
charge.
Right to the point.
that's an old,
I can say,
the whole,
I guess
well,
I'm Peter Griffin.
the joke is, what do you call nuts on your chest? Chestnuts. What do you call nuts on the wall? Walnuts. What do you call nuts on your chin? Dick in your mouth. It was an old dumb joke. Anyway, I digress. What kind of
You're
bees give milk?
I haven't.
Boobies. Uh,
We haven't heard anything from Phil about this particular episode about, like,
yeah.
addictions.
I
And
wanted to thanks for bringing it back, Chris, because I was going to have Phil talk. Just put a quick plug for the DT Discord.
Oh,
Link's
okay.
been scrolling down below.
Thanks, Tyson. I apologize. I've been kind of trying to keep an eye on some emails. I have a convention coming up this weekend, and I'm trying to make arrangements for storing some supplies and getting there and a hotel and all that stuff. But I've invited to do caricatures at Anime North in Toronto. If anybody's a big anime fan, it's our giant anime convention.
huge
So,
anime fan. Love anime.
yeah. I do have to apologize a little bit regarding the. I missed last week's episode, and so when this one started, I thought, oh wow, this is a part 2, I guess. So I really felt a little bit out of touch with everything going on. I feel like now I don't really, to be fair, I feel like I don't have I'm kind of lost to it, and I feel like I don't have a lot to offer on this one, and I feel a bit bad because I couldn't make last week's, and
Well, you had other things going on too, so it's
what about your
understandable.
interpretation of on addiction, like whether it be drug addiction versus what we were just talking about, just something in what about yourself? Have you experienced any kind of addiction for yourself?
I've been really
look back?
Speaking for myself, yeah. I mean, speaking for myself personally, I've been fortunate in my life that I haven't, other than like maybe coffee and maybe kind of food. But maybe the only 2 things that maybe I've kind of been, and if I put a little bit of mental effort into it, I can suck it up and do something about it, just if I make an effort. However, one of my very, very good friends, when I used to live in London, Ontario, I became really good friends with somebody who he lived just down the hall from me. We became really good friends. He was and still is hardcore alcoholic, and I had never seen it that up close before, and never fully understood it until I had met him and got to know him, and saw on a level that just the fact that he would give up he used to sell things out of his apartment. Like people would give him something, and then he just wanted to try and sell it so that he had money to buy one more beer, buy one more bottle of something. And that was and that was, I think it was around 2011, 2012 that we started to become friends. And it was, and the depths that does to a person's mind and what it does. Just he came knocking on my door. I think it was Christmas Eve. Had cut his neck, and he was covered. I don't want to get too graphic for YouTube, but he was covered with blood. But I had, because I had spent a lot of time in talking with him and just sitting with him, and that he had sort of came to trust me anyways, and I felt like that I was a bit of a safe space for him, I guess, so that he could come to me in that moment. But so that was, but that, to see it on that level, I don't think people, when they hear addiction, a lot of people, I think their first reaction is just like, we'll just try to not do it, just try not to drink, try not to do this, and it goes so much deeper. I don't think people realize just how much it infests into your mind to just not do something anymore. And because I know he's still, the poor guy still struggles to this day with it. And there's a lot going on with him, I think, on top of that. But yeah, it's and he still can't, like, he can't socialize. He can't do anything unless he's got some degree of something in him, some sort of liquid courage, if you will, that's in him, so that he can, even just to go out and pick up groceries, he can't do it without something in him. So every day he insists on putting something. He's tried really hard to control, to the point of becoming intoxicated. But the fact that just when that touches his mouth, all it has to do is touch your mouth and touch your lips, and it does something. So anyway, sorry, that got way off topic of Star Trek.
No,
This is the most technically Trek we've had in a while. And actually, while you're still here, Tyson, I want to I don't know if you have any big plans for Memorial Day Monday evening, if you're still doing Radiohead on that day or
I'm
not.
net control next Monday too. This Monday and next Monday. But I'm off. I mean, one thing, it's won't let me put it in here due to copyright, but I wanted to tell Phil, huge anime fan. I subscribe to Crunchyroll, and obviously DBZ from way back in the day, and the new Dragon Ball Daima, Kaiju #8,
Oh yeah.
Jujutsu Kaisen. I love all the anime, and I pay a hefty fee to have Crunchyroll and go through all the
So
Tower of God.
Yeah, I know a lot of
Love it.
friends are subscribed to it.
It's an
Yeah.
anime Netflix. That's pretty much what it is.
And yeah, basically
Yeah,
it's all
basically, yeah.
Crunchyroll is all anime. And what's really good about Crunchyroll is, if you subscribe to it, you get a lot of it before it shows up on any of the American streaming services.
Yeah.
Hulu has a lot of anime,
friend had it.
Netflix has some anime, but Crunchyroll, you have a much bigger library, a lot of dubs. I used to watch, oh my god, I could just go on and on.
We
JoJo's
don't
Bizarre
have time.
Adventure. I mean, there's anime is just amazing. I love it.
The funny thing is, I watch a little bit. I'm not probably as hugely into it as like a lot of my friends love it. I got asked to come to this conventions like over 10 years ago because I do caricatures, and they wanted me to do caricatures of kids in the main hall. So yeah, because I knew the organizers, and because so many of my friends are so obsessed with anime that
I'm one of them.
yeah, that that they just that I got connected with that crowd, and because I also used to go to Star Trek conventions. That used to be a big thing in Toronto, and it kind of, the big Star Trek conventions kind of fizzled out. But
Still big here.
Kids got older, it sort of turned into anime, and now it's the anime conventions are kind of the big thing. So but yeah, because I knew the organizers, I knew the people who ran it, they asked me to come do caricatures for kids. They offered me a table, and they says I can charge for adults if I want. I could sell merch if I want. If I would just do the kids for free, and I said sure, why not? So, but that's
Oh, well, I'm just here to tell you anime is wonderful. And Dave, to your point, yes, I am available on Memorial Day. I'm actually off Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. So I've got a
Nice.
5-day weekend.
Oh
Um,
wow, nice.
yeah. Well,
No, but
we get
I
the
just
3-day, and I just took one day on either side. Go ahead, Dave.
yeah, just before you dropped off, I just wanted to say, so I had an idea to do a non-live episode, so it's just going to be myself, Katie, and a special guest. I haven't
Oh,
really
nice.
done anything about it just yet, but it's still something I want to do one of these days. Just have us have one of those and see how that turns out. Maybe do one of those every other month or every quarter, something like that. But I wanted to kind of continue this conversation, but kind of focus instead of just like one episode, one character. And that character is
Okay.
Raffi, because Michelle Hurd, bless her heart, did a phenomenal job
Oh
uh,
yeah, brilliant.
showing her struggles with
Mm.
alcohol and substance abuse addiction and all that. Saying so, kind of just focus on her and just again with roll with what we've been talking about, just like your personal experiences, and that's what I kind of want to get is I got to remember early on in the episode say, hey, come on, we got slots available. Don't be shy. We don't bite
Mm.
unless you want us to.
Well, I nibble.
Depends
All
what
right,
mood
guys.
I'm in. Sometimes I nibble, sometimes I chomp.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Bye, guys. Have a great show.
See you next
Take
week.
care,
I
Tyson.
Yes,
know.
sorry. Good to see you again.
Yeah, but no,
But
I kind this even though we've been kind of we definitely got way off the episode because mainly the Trellium-D addiction, that was very almost a sub B plot to the episode because the
Yeah.
episode itself was dealing with the moral ambiguity of Archer stealing from the Illyrians to
Mhm.
because they I need this more than you do, sort of thing. And but he did show that he did struggle with that. But when he came to
you
the
know,
decision that it's like I'm going to do it, it's like Reed was like the look on Reed's face when he told him to get ready for a boarding party, and the senior crew T'Pol went into his ready room and broke the pad, which I think that's the only time we've ever seen a pad break like that in any Star Trek.
you know something. You know, there was more going on in this episode too because of what's happening. Let's talk about this. The the Xindis.
Hmm.
You know how they
That
how there's how the inner squabble between them are really it's really sometimes they side with each other, sometimes they side against each other and everything else. Not all every every Xindi council member don't think they both are alike and stuff and everything else. But when those three Xindis was setting and they summoned the Guardian,
hmm
it was pretty interesting because she said, did I get summoned here to be interrogated? And stuff. It was like, yes, you are, because, you know, there is some there was some, evidence to prove that, you guys are not what you appear to be, even though we thank you for what you've done for the Zindi species. There's more. So you have an underlining ulterior motive, and stuff. You getting them to build a weapon to destroy an entire planet and species and stuff. And I like how they question her and stuff and everything about, you know, missing, missing people that they know, helping others on the Zini Council to undermine their authority, and it was showing that there are fragmented. They were starting to fragment in this episode because Archer finally got into Degra's head, and Degra, when he showed him provided proof, and he started telling him all this other stuff, and then he went back and they was like, you could tell that they was starting to have some ambiguity on should we really go through and destroy the humans.
Yeah, I wrote a
And you
note
could
about
just
that.
see
I'm trying to. Uh,
Mm.
And I like
Well,
how all
keep on talking, because I wrote something about that.
well, you know the 3 Xindi council members that was sitting there in the chambers. All 3 of them at one point or another. This is just a little fun fact. You know, I'm just gonna go out and just talk about some fun facts and stuff about this episode. These 3 have appeared in every single, you know, not just every single, but like from TNG, DS9, and Voyager. These characters have the actors have appeared in one form or another in many of, you know, Star Trek.
Yep.
I like, wow, the gentleman Dagra, he has
Mhm.
appeared in quite a bit of, you know, TNG,
Mhm.
Deep Space Nine, Voyager, and now this, you know, the guy who played the arboreal Xindi,
Mhm.
he appeared, you know, in quite a few Star Trek episodes and stuff and everything else. You know, he was a Klingon from Martov's ship when the Rotaran, you know, when Martov, you know, got was that the Soldiers of the Empire, wasn't it?
I believe so. Yeah. And
Yeah. And
I can't
go
remember
ahead.
the other Digger's colleague, Tucker Smallwood. He was Admiral Bullock in Voyager.
Yes. Yes, he was.
Like,
Yes, he was.
did it. You say problems, you go to him.
Oh, yep. I like that little thing where they reuse a lot of characters, and you can hear in their voices, just like how, you know, Katie said her favorite is Jeffrey Combs because he's one of the most diverse, you know, familiar faces
Oh, yeah.
throughout Star Trek. But there's been so many others. J.G. Hertzler, there's been so, but they're not as more recognizable than um Jeffrey Combs and stuff and everything, but there's been so many people who came through and stuff and everything. And you gonna ask about JG Hertzler,
Hmm.
Katie?
Is he the dude of Martok?
Say again?
What'd you say?
Is that guy the one who played is it Martok, the Klingon?
General
J.G.
Martov?
Hertzler?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yay! I got it right. Sorry.
I just want to throw that little trivia, those little fun facts out and everything about, you know, how, you know, it's very interesting in the sense that we see, you know, characters that we, you know, we loved. And also too, I don't know if you got this written down too, Dave, but this is the first time we ever heard of the word
Stardate.
Stardate in.
Hmm.
I was like, "What?" The first time I heard that, I shook. I was like, "Wait, did they just say Stardate in this?"
Oh,
They say Stardate.
But yeah,
I
kind of
didn't know.
like midway through the episode, when T'Pol was definitely showing
I missed
physical
that.
signs that she was dealing with withdrawals, and Archer asked T'Pol if she's okay. She's like, "I'm fine."
When she handed him a towel, she was shaking.
That's the first thing I thought of when she said, "I'm fine."
Yeah,
She's fine.
yeah.
I say
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought
To
that.
Paul, we all knew she wasn't fine. Just her, just before, because you said you didn't realize, Phil, this was a continuation from the previous episode. In that previous episode, to Paul and Tucker was going at it with each other because
Oh,
she was getting ready to take a shuttlecraft. You know, it was going to try to like do some sort of diplomatic, you know, thing with the Xindi and stuff. And
yeah.
she was getting down the steps in the shuttle bay, and all of a sudden you heard over the intercom, they recalled her back to the bridge and stuff and everything else. But the fight between them going back and forth and everything, as you could see, she was angry,
Mm.
from what I remember, because I didn't see it, but I just remember she was upset and she was angry, and you could tell. You'd be like, man, something is going on with T'Pol. She's not acting the way she's not acting rational, as she should be and stuff. I understand she probably cares for Archer and stuff, but
Hence the dream sequence
just the
that
way,
she had in this episode.
yeah,
Yeah.
her and Tucker went at it with each other. I was like, man, if I didn't know they was married, if they weren't married, I thought they were married. You know, I mean, just the way they was arguing with each other and stuff. But it played into this episode because you'd be like, oh, I understand what why she was acting like that before in that previous episode, and why she's acting like this now and stuff, because she's been experimenting with Trellium-D in her system.
I
One
really
thing that
needed. Sorry, I really need to do better to watch the episode like more than an hour before doing this show, because I can't read some of my chicken scratching sometimes. I was like, what the heck did I write? It's like, oh yeah. I was like, I can read this. I'm good. I'm good. It's like, what the frick did I just write?
Something to say real quick.
Sorry, what was that, Travis?
I said you get ready to say something real quick when Dave was.
Yeah, sorry. No, I put it in the chat earlier, but it's something that I wanted to mention. Now, I always look into episodes a lot deeper than the average person. One thing, and it was something that Travis said earlier, but up until then, I couldn't find a word for it. And the big theme that runs through this, I mean, aside from damage, like the title of the episode, one big theme that runs through this entire episode is fragmentation. That is the one thing that runs through everything. And that is what links this episode together. Like the main plot and the subplot, it links everything together. You've got it with the Xindi, you've got it with the ship itself, you've got it with T'Pol and her mind, her emotions, her struggle, and you've also got it with the relationships of people on the crew as well, because they're all wound so tight, and you can see like the fractures and the fragmentation in their relationships, and not just T'Pol, not just T'Pol and other people's T'Pol's relationship with other people, but other people like Archer and Trip's relationship.
What about the talk between Hoshi and Travis in the in the shuttle bay? You know, you could see in this it started when Archer got the first call from Force about Earth being attacked, and then you could see the entire arc too of everybody. They went from being this happy, jolly, be like, we get ready to explore space and we got to meet aliens and stuff, and now it's like, a 60 degree that they did a turnabout and stuff and everything else. They're not happy. Of course, they're not happy, but you could tell that how they was looking upon things was more in that grayish area, the gray dark area for them and stuff, because with crew members dying, the ship is falling apart around them and stuff like that. They're, you could say that they were suffering. They were still in the thing, but like PTSD, and they were still suffering from, trying to, understand what their objective mission is to stop them from destroying their home world and stuff and everything else. And they look so beat it and down. Everybody was, everybody was beaten and down, and they really did a good job at showing, just, the fragmented angles of each individual on what they see their plight is, because none of them, I mean, hell, Hoshi got few episodes in the, after this episode, she ended up getting kidnapped by the reptilians, and she had a parasite in her brain and stuff and everything. She was tortured and stuff and everything else. And Archer was tortured, and I mean, you see a lot of things, stuff and everything else, and it really versus all the, not saying that TNG in DS9, but they really did it in this particular season. And it was like, wow, these people are not going to be the same when they get back. When they get back to
I was
Earth,
trying to think of the
because
same
we
thing,
seen
but
we seen what happened to Archer when he blew off when they was when he's debriefing with Saval and the other members and stuff of the review council and stuff when he's there, and they're talking about the destruction of the Celea.
Hmm.
Archer just blew off and yelled at Saval, and then he went off mountain climbing, and then Captain Hernandez went with him and stuff and everything. And you could see he was still suffering from just all of that and everything else and stuff. And I mean, I'm glad she was with him, because him climbing the mountain by himself and everything else and stuff, and she could tell just he wasn't okay. And I'm surprised that they didn't try to get any counseling for him, so because it's like exactly just how far you know did like the questionable things that he done to achieve his objective. And it questioned, I guess you could say, it questioned a lot of their sense of morality.
Well, yeah, it did. I mean, this episode. Now, at first, when I started watching this episode, I didn't remember it. Because of what the episode is, I was just like, I wonder why Dave's chosen this episode. And I don't know if this is the reason why, but I know that it does that. Like the subplot is to do with Paul's addiction.
That was the
But
reason.
I see so much in this episode, and the episode itself, with everything that's going on, the thread of fragmentation running through, the damage running through, this entire episode, the Xindi to Paul, the ship itself, the relationships between the crew. If you put all that together in a circle, all of that is the mind of somebody with an addiction. The entirety of it. You've got the Xindi sitting around a table. Two of them have pissed off somewhere. The rest of them are questioning and arguing. Then you've got Paul, who is all over the place, can barely think. She can't focus. She is literally stumbling. She is physically shaking. But she's also trying to deny it as well. And then you've got the ship that is crumbling, being held together by sheer force of will, if you like, with how damaged it is. It's full of holes, Then you've got some of the crew, they've gone out into space to meet their makers. Then you've got arguments galore. That is all of that put together. That is the mind of somebody with an addiction. It's heartbreaking and it's scary.
You saw too, one thing that I saw about this too, when back to Hoshi and Travis when they was talking. Hoshi looks beat it. She looks like, I don't think we're gonna be coming back from this. And then Travis said, you could tell him when we get home. And she just looked at him and she was like, yeah, right. And then he's like, we're going to make it home and stuff and everything. And she just had this just subtle thing like, right now,
But
I don't know. She's questioning whether or not she's going to live through it.
yeah, but I mean, Travis was trying to put on a brave face, just like Hoshi was saying that my mom wanted me to play the piano, and Travis was like, well, you can do that when we get home. And that's what like, she's like, okay, sure, whatever.
Yeah.
One thing that I do want to say, though, do you know how I describe this entire episode as the the brain of somebody who suffers an addiction, there is one thing I forgot to mention.
Oopsie alert, by the way, we got less than 10 minutes.
Within everyone who has an addiction and who is struggling, there is always that little voice of hope, but sometimes it is very rarely heard. And that voice in this episode was represented by Phlox.
Absolutely.
He was that little like ray of sunshine, little ray of hope, slithering through the cracks, trying to be as calm as possible, very matter of fact yet positive, like a simple matter of repair. Well, maybe not simple, but a repair all the same, you know. And the same with Paul. Even though he was being very matter of fact, he was very worried. He still tried to keep things as calm as possible. And he is that little voice in the back of your mind who is always saying, "No, you're gonna get through this." And then on the road to recovery as well, you know, you've got all these voices inside of your head. Oh, just one, and then another one like trying to slap that one with a wet fish, you know. And you know, and then you've got Phlox who walks in, you know. Oh, everything will be fine. You know, just one more day, you know. Tomorrow's another day, and that's kind of like the road to recovery. You know, that voice starts getting a little bit louder, that voice of hope, or, you know, the Phlox voice, as we're going to call it from now on. You know, so I always try and look for the silver lining. I do. And I always try and weigh the good and the bad. You know, yes, addiction is bad, it's heartbreaking, but the recovery is a beautiful thing. Regardless of how rocky the road, the recovery and overcoming it is a beautiful thing. And just look at that. Look at that. That is a beautiful thing to see, people.
It is a very beautiful thing.
And Dave's soul is even more beautiful. And, you know, this is the first time in a while, Dave, I've seen your aura sparkle the way it is. And it's beautiful.
See, I wish I could see what you're seeing, because I don't see anything. All I see are the Christmas lights behind me.
Oh no, don't forget, I can read auras, darling. Honestly, it's like a technical show when I go anywhere. It's beautiful, but it's Ed doing.
Yeah, no, I do remember you sharing a while back that my aura had a lot of dark splotches in it. And
yeah.
Now that rainbow has came out. The rainbow, you know.
There's a lot of yellow now. There's happiness.
Oh, Boimler just let out a scream. We got less than 5 minutes before we got to wrap it up.
Oh, there we go.
What was that, Phil?
Oh no, I knew that was just saying that's the 5-minute mark, I think. So yeah.
Hey, one of these days, I'm going to figure out why I can't hear those. I heard Moopsie, but I didn't hear the Boimler scream. I haven't been able to hear the opening credits music for a couple of weeks now, and I play it on Adobe. It plays fine. I hear you guys just fine. I play it on other media formats. It's fine. It's just doing it on the StreamYard app itself. It's just,
you don't go through OBS, do you?
What's that?
You don't have. Did you go through OBS by chance, or
what the heck is OBS?
OBS? Oh, okay. Never mind.
I get it, Dave. Dave, you really don't know.
Oh, you'll got to share later, but yeah, we're out of time. But I say, do you guys have any closing thoughts on the episode? Because, like I said, we're gonna kind of continue this conversation next week. Focus on the struggles that Rafi had and kind of correlate it through what I've gone through personally as well as what others. Hopefully, we can get some live participation on it because again, it's a holiday for us Yanks, so it might not get a lot of viewership, but we'll have to wait and see what
Here
happens.
too. Actually, I thought it's Victoria Day weekend here, which I think we share with
Memorial
UK.
Day.
But
I
thought
know that Monday next week is a bank holiday for us.
okay.
Friday.
I think that's. I don't know if that's got anything to do with bloody Will and Kate's wedding. I don't know.
No.
Couldn't say.
Oh, okay. Our mom says ours the week before theirs. Okay.
Check the. You know what? Jeff wasn't here tonight, so.
Yeah, I hope everything's okay with him.
Yeah, usually at least he might be listening and on his drive home. He just didn't put any conversations because he's driving, so which is the preferred option.
You don't want to do that while you drive.
Yeah.
But it was a fun episode. I appreciate everything about
it. Was.
Yeah. Does it lead into? I felt like even when it ended, like it wasn't completely over. Does it lead into something in next week or following week, like following episodes?
The entire season is one big story arc. One just
is it?
into
Okay,
another,
all right.
into another. So
actually, it start in the end of season 2. That it starts at the end of season 2, and the entire story arc actually doesn't conclude. It concludes in the sense at the end of the 3rd season, but the first 2 seasons, it just.
That's why
if you're a watch film, you understand it. You have to understand.
Okay,
you have to really watch the arc.
But you see, I got people to pick up at another house down the road, so and I gotta use the loo. What's up, Katie?
No, I just want to say my closing thought for the show is I am so fucking proud of you, love.
Thank you.
That's my closing thought for this week.
If I didn't say it earlier, congratulations, Dave. I meant to say that earlier. So
well, thank you, man.
Dave, it's just for me. It's just one small step for Dave Kahn.
Yes.
Sorry.
And things are slowly getting better. So it just it's the topic that I've chosen to the meeting I'm chairing tomorrow night is one day at a time. Above all else, it just takes one day at a time. Say 365 days. Well, 366 now since it's Monday. So.
Woo!
But until next week, we'll be back at the regular time at the top of the hour instead of quarter till. So, say may Spock be with y'all.
Good night, everyone.